Hey, everybody. How you doing, Lo?
Very good. How are we doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty well. Welcome to Make Up or Break Up.
We're all trying to squeeze that Thanksgiving weekend. Everybody seems to be running behind schedule.
I know. And I heard the grocery stores the other night were like on Sunday, were Saturday and Sunday were crazy. So
I can imagine. Yeah.
and I had to go out today after this and get a couple of things that my husband forgot.
Yep. And on
I'm
top
like,
of that, I know you know Jeff Shank from Andover Advisory Group. We do a show together, and he did
right.
his annual Thanksgiving Day Index show, which is the price of Thanksgiving Day meal over the years. Shows us how much inflation up. I think it was 14% overall this year.
Wow. Yeah. So turkeys, everything is more expensive.
Yeah, but it's kind of misleading. It's up over last year, but it's still a cheap meal because obviously the stores are running bargains. They don't want frozen turkeys hanging around after Thanksgiving. So it's still a relatively cheap meal, but it's 14% more than it was last year.
Right. Well, if you want to get really cheap, buy your own cranberries and make your own cranberry sauce. I mean, that's what we do.
It's funny because I was reading about the history of Plum Island, as you know, where I live, and apparently on the south side in the refuge there are some cranberry bogs. I'm going, I'm going to go down and get some cranberries.
Wow.
Grab some of my own.
I wonder how you access those. Maybe you have to get into a little dinghy.
Yeah. You certainly have to get wet at some point, I would imagine. But
right, obviously it's in a bog. Wow, that's really interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I didn't know it either.
Wow, fascinating. I wonder if it's part of the park refuge, though, property or.
Oh yeah, they wouldn't be too happy about any of that, but but they're not paying too close attention.
But
I don't
then
know.
again, yeah, but then again, if it's out in the water, I don't think that's part of any kind of
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, you have to go check that out between now and like the weekend. So you can tell me next week about that.
I know, right?
Too funny. Well, so today I'm going to start with holidays, and then I'm going to get back into some narcissism, and then I'm going to end with holidays.
Okay.
So we'll kind of couch it in there. And so the first thing I wanted to talk about, in case people only watch the beginning of the show, and if for whatever reason they can't watch all of it, on December 8th from 7 o'clock at night, which is East Coast time, till about 8:30 or 9, I'm running a special one night surviving the holidays. And this is our workbook.
Very nice.
Yep. And this is an extension of the 13-week program that I run called Divorce Care. This happens to coincide on the last week of the fall session of Divorce Care. So Divorce Care is still going until the first week of December. People can still join that. Divorce Care itself is for men and women that are separated, maybe going through a divorce or not. Sometimes people are taking a trial period. Divorce or a major breakup. They don't have to be married, but they have to have lived together and then gone through the mess of separation.
Right.
Or they're on the other side of the messy breakup or the divorce, and they're still not doing well. I usually get people in my programs that are 10 to 25 years out from their divorce. And there's a sticky point, right? They still got this one trigger.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's holding on to a certain type of anger, and it comes up during certain times of the year, which is often holidays.
Yeah.
And Divorce Care addresses that. And it unpacks every single negative thing that could possibly have gone wrong or is still going wrong. And then it helps us heal. So as soon as we can identify those things and talk in a safe place, in a support group, and by the way, it's all by Zoom, which is really great because now we can reach people beyond the North Shore where I live.
Right. And I always think it's important to point out it's not sequential. So if you want to join for these last couple of weeks, it can be beneficial to you. You can jump in at any point. You don't need to have seen the other weeks of the program.
Right. And what's so funny, it's talk about, you're always the wingman. You bring up things that we didn't even plan before the show. You're absolutely right, Lou. Last night we had 2 women join our group.
Oh, nice.
And they just found out about it.
Yep.
One heard about it in some Facebook group that one of our members belongs to. And when she found out that this other woman was going through a divorce, she's like, oh my gosh, so am I. And you should try the support group. And the other woman was like, wow, I've been looking for a support group. and she was in one but wasn't crazy about it. So I'm like, this is unbelievable. Like,
what a great thing to share that with a friend. And, we
right,
talk about that with this show all the time, or any of these programs.
right,
There are people who might need just that little handhold or that little push to jump into one of these programs, or get involved with you, or even watch our
yeah,
program here. They're thinking, they don't want to get involved in it right now, but a little push, a friend is going, or geez, I thought this would be helpful for you. Take a look. That can often be so helpful to people.
right, exactly. And most people are finding out about my programs by just Google searching late at night.
Yeah.
They may or may not even use the word support group, but they might say help for divorce, support, whatever. And the excuse me, the SEO in the divorce care organization is so good that that's how most people find us. So yes, last night was week 11, and actually, it gets into deeper kind of topics as we go along. Therefore, last night was kind of an interesting one because it talks about what does your relationship look like going forward past your breakup and your divorce?
Yeah.
And how can you manage that? And of course, we talked about the fact that some people are unsafe. You're not necessarily going to have any contact or relationship with someone afterward.
Right.
Also, the reality is people with no kids, let's be honest, they can move on. Right?
Yes.
I never understood that until I got older and more mature. But when I met my first husband, Ben's dad, he had been married before. And I thought it was so interesting because I don't know why, but in my mind, I thought it was kind of weird that he'd never seen her since the day they went to the courthouse together. So they just amicably, they didn't have a house or anything really.
Right.
So they amicably, I think they did it on their own. I could be wrong. Or,
well, business was done, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I just thought it was so interesting at the time. I just didn't like the concept of like no contact whatsoever, but there was no reason to have contact. And in some respects that can be hard for people because it's like, wow, like once that final date comes, there's pros and cons to that, right? There's this feeling of like afterward, like, it's always like after the storm, right? It's that feeling of like, now you're left with all your thoughts and feelings. And that's why divorce care is great because we address all of that. But today, I'm talking about this, which is Surviving the Holidays. It's a fantastic program. It's meant to be one night, several times during the fall. So I've already run it in November, and now I'm going to run it December 6th. This really takes on and acknowledges the fact that people can still have remaining issues like loneliness,
sure,
sadness. Sometimes, let's be honest, we used to go to our in-laws for Thanksgiving or Hanukkah, and now we're not.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, as I've talked about, and I know your separation and divorce was a little bit different.
Yeah.
But in general, best case scenario is you're not really doing the kids any service by continuing after a divorce to keep doing like the morning Christmas opening of gifts, Thanksgiving at grandma's house. It confuses kids, and what they think in their head and what they spill out on couch time in their 20s or 30s, right?
Yeah.
What ends up being revealed is that the kids couldn't put their finger on it. They couldn't identify the feelings inside, but they were confused because you muddy, the playing field. It's no longer like two households, two holidays. It's one. And there's this feeling in a way, Lou, like they're not going to say it to you, but what they're thinking is, this doesn't look that bad. Why did they have to separate? Why did dad have to move out? What is it about? Like they're sitting there at Thanksgiving laughing.
Yeah.
The holidays are fine. They're not arguing. And what the children of all ages don't understand, of course, is that the stress is gone once the two people have finally separated and they're not living together all the time. And I know you remained, you guys took a hard stand on trying to remain amicable and in that sort of what we call camp civility.
Yeah.
But like you don't do Christmas together anymore, right? With your ex and things like that. Right.
No. Don't you find though, it's funny because societal changes happen oftentimes societal changes happen through television, right? I remember,
The
Cam
Brady
and the,
Bunch.
Cam and the gay couple on Modern Family and how they changed attitudes towards, gay men through that time. And there's a lot of television about couples who are divorced who are still together and still have intertwined lives. There's a lot of that out there. I think that eases that to some extent. That people kids see examples of how it can be that way. In fact, there are a lot of series like that actually.
I have mixed feelings about that.
Yeah.
Because it also, to a certain degree, honestly, to me, it waters down the whole concept of two people working through difficult times and disagreements.
Yeah.
And so it kind of says, well, we can quit but still be friends. And part of me says, to a certain degree, if you really were in love with someone and you really had love, then you would work to because love is work. And we don't understand that until we get older, right?
Yep.
We think the love that's waxing and waning, and I'm guilty of it. I was this person when I was married before, not my current marriage. Well, actually, my current marriage too. But when love waxes and wanes and someone frustrates you, and there are times where you're not feeling like on a scale of 1 to 10, you're just not feeling like it's a 10.
Right.
Because, whatever, there's all kinds of reasons. And, the mature person says, when it's high, that's great. But when it's low, I'm going to sit in the valleys. And so we've talked about this before. The really interesting thing about long-term relationships is when you talk to people that have been together, who are happily still together, I'll put it that way, for 20, 30, 50 years, it's not that they had no problems. It's that they sat in the valleys because they knew that the highs come and the highs go.
Right.
And sometimes, let's be honest, Lou, the lows can be for a long time. And like, when I think back on it, and I don't know if you ever sort of reflect, sometimes, if I were to be honest with myself, and if most people were to be honest with themselves, they might not be in this, there we are. They might not be trying to survive the holiday as a single person now, if they had taken the time to step back and maybe work on themselves first, and then move into the marriage as best they can. I'll be talking about this in December, but in January, I'm going to be running a seminar with a fellow marriage coach. She's out on the West Coast. And she and I talk about this all the time. And most people would say, we just didn't get along. We just weren't meant for each other. We were too opposite and things like that. But what I say is, and that can be often true, but a lot of times there were teachable moments and there were opportunities. So we call difficulties, in my line of the work, I call it difficulty as an opportunity, because usually when there's a difficult situation going on with a couple, they're not necessarily experiencing this for the first time.
Yeah.
But
that's where coaching comes in and where it's so important, because most of the time those teachable moments are those moments that you could have, that you might have made changes in retrospect as you look back, happen in your 30s. And in your 30s, there's a lot going on, with career, with the marriage. The marriage is still relatively new. Maybe you have kids, you have young kids, so you're still dealing with parents. There's a lot going on in your 30s. You don't have that perspective in your 30s that you might have when you're sitting back in your 40s or 50s and looking back and saying, well, maybe I could have handled that a little differently. So that's where coaching becomes important, and reaching out and people trying to get beyond their own perspective a little bit, because those are difficult skills to have. Those are difficult realizations to have in your 30s.
Right.
I think certainly not in your 20s. Where there's a lot of marriages in their 20s, you don't have any perspective whatsoever in your 20s, which makes the struggles that much more difficult.
Right. You just don't. It's kind of like when you're in your teenage years, and maybe, into your early 20s, when you're just experiencing dating. You don't really know what you're doing at the beginning. You get better at dating, right?
Yeah, but all the struggles of being a teenager you think are permanent. And looking back now, you think of your teenage years and you go, well, that was me being a teenager. You don't have perspective, so it's difficult to deal. So those problems become overwhelming. It's true of marriages and relationships in your 20s and 30s. You don't have enough perspective to handle a lot of situations.
Right. Exactly. And I think looking back is one of the things that I talk about a lot with my clients, and I also talk about it in our divorce care program. It's important to look back and say, what did I contribute? Because you and I have talked about this. Even the fact that you stayed in it when somebody was abusive, what did I contribute? Well, I didn't hit them, right?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't slam the doors every time I came home. I didn't yell at the kids. It's like, yeah, but what did you do? Because sometimes the part that you played was not speaking up, was not taking a stand, was not getting help. I mean, I know people don't like to call the police, but we all are educated enough to know, if someone comes home like that and they're in your face and they're throwing the milk bottle at you, that's a time to call the police.
Yep.
So you have to look back and analyze that. But but the reason why I want to talk about this today, there it is. It's always backwards on here,
Yeah.
Is because on December 8th, we're going to unpack this for a couple of hours, and it's going to be for men and women, like I said. And I'm going to talk more about that as well. But this program really wants to address all holidays when you're now separated. And so this could be for people that just got out of a 3-year dating relationship. And even when you're dating somebody for a few years, you start to fall into that, hey, do you want to come to my sister's house for Thanksgiving? And yeah, you're not married, but you're usually doing that.
Yep.
Even people that are in a fairly short-term relationship or marriage will struggle with this afterward, because very often we agreed to go to those other people's houses because it was fun. There was a reason that we went, not necessarily as a compromise, but now on the other side of it, we kind of miss those people, right? But the people are kind of siding with our ex, and they're not necessarily comfortable with us being. So here are the top 10 tips that I'm going to go through for coping with grief during the holidays. Grief means feeling sad and maybe overwhelmed with the fact that things are so different. And, maybe your kids are young adults and they chose to go with dad's family because they have more fun at Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
And you're not invited anymore. And that can be sad.
Or it's his year.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And right. Exactly. So this goes for, I'm talking about it in terms of Thanksgiving because we're a couple of days away, but we'll be talking more about this in December as well, because obviously we've got a lot of holidays and Hanukkah's about to start. We've got all kinds of things going on. So 10 tips for coping with grief during the holidays. Number 1, which is something that we're describing, but we haven't actually talked about, which is recognize that the holidays may not be the same, and you may feel intense feelings of grief, like the night before or the day of. It might really surprise you. Try not to isolate yourself. And you and I have talked about that. People tend to be like, the friends try to help out and they say, why don't you come to my house? And people are like, no, don't be that person.
Yeah.
Because isolation is not a positive thing, right? Not going because you feel sad. At least just tell them you'll go for dessert or you'll go for an hour and play Scrabble.
Yeah.
Right. And we've talked about that before in past shows. Number 2, talk with family members and friends about your feelings and share stories about your loved one. So this is basically saying it's okay to acknowledge that, because some people actually were the ones that were dumped and they didn't want to be out of this relationship.
Right.
So keeping the skeleton in the closet and not talking about, the boogeyman or the thing that's really upsetting you. It's like people just almost want to be told what you're actually feeling.
Yeah.
Right. And they know that you're uncomfortable and it makes them uncomfortable because you're not sharing. So,
find a way to break the ice. And so, because there's that awkward stage where people don't know how to deal with you in light of all this, and, helping to break the ice can ease a lot of that tension.
Right. And, this makes sense. It's like if you went to the emergency room and you didn't talk about your feelings and what was going on and things like that, they can't assess it. Right. The third thing is, this is a good one. We've talked about this before during the holidays. Plan ahead so you can be prepared when invited to holiday get-togethers.
Mm-hmm.
People who are grieving often do not have the emotional energy to celebrate the holidays as they have done in the past. Let others know when you're not up to attending a gathering. So it's okay to say you're not going, but I also feel that the point before this on not isolating is key, right?
Yep.
I think it's important to power through for at least showing up for an hour. Like just say, I'll show up for a cocktail. And if you guys are playing games, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Because then it's not like you're sitting in a living room with 6 people and they're all staring at you, wanting you to talk about like how lonely you are. Right.
Yep.
And if you do go, let them know that you may not stay for the whole time. Okay. Number 4 is consider honoring your loved one through a commemorative ritual. So this is really talking about grief of a death.
Yeah.
Okay. But I use this list because it's so similar to what we have as feelings after a breakup. So if you are single now, going through and trying to survive the holidays because of a death, so you're a widow or a widower, this can be as simple as lighting a candle in his or her honor, visiting a place that holds special meaning, or baking a favorite holiday dish. The next one is do what you want to do, not what you feel you should do. So that means it's okay to pick one person's place to go to or make one pie as opposed to, well, I feel like I'm supposed to make 5 pies because that's what my family does. So you have to cut yourself some slack and do only what you think you're capable of doing. And if you have to buy the cranberry sauce, okay, I personally think cranberry sauce is fun to make because they all pop. They make this popping sound after like 7 or 8 minutes. But if you have to buy the one in the can and try to get it out, go for it.
Yep.
Number 6. So this makes sense too.
Yeah, it's
So
funny. That one about you talking about grief and the loss of a loved one.
Right.
In the loss of a relationship, I'd turn that ritual around to something honoring yourself, whether it be creating a new tradition or having a meal that you like, or just take care of yourself for a little bit.
Right. Exactly. And we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Number 6, surround yourself with those who are supportive and understanding. So if you know that Uncle Billy is always like in your business and just always wants to be like, hey, I told you shouldn't have married her. You you may want to distance yourself from Uncle Billy this year. If you just have that one friend that was always telling you that you guys should break up, but you just kept trying to work on the relationship. That's not a supportive person.
Yeah.
Right. It's like I tell people all the time in divorce care, this is not a time to do too much, right? You just want to be selective about what you do and where you go and who you're hanging out with.
Right.
Pick your support team. And honestly, your support team outside of my support group, your support team is not, 2 friends that are also going through a terrible breakup where you just have pity parties and, they bring you down. Because the reality, Lou, is that during this time of grief, whether you lost someone to a death or you're without somebody because of a breakup, you have to be intuitive enough to know that you need someone that brings you up. You need someone that's going to be positive and upbeat and just welcomes you with a hug and says, hey, it's great to see you. It doesn't have to be like, hey, how are you feeling? What's going on? Are you sad today? Like, did you cry? Did you sleep last night? No, that's not what you're expecting. You want someone like we've talked about on the show who's just present with you.
Yeah.
But if they can't do that and they're all super opinionated, you shouldn't hang out with those types of people that often, because all these opinions flying at you and the pressure to do what they say you should do, like, well, you should erase his name or you should get rid of all your pictures. I remember, after my divorce, the first time, people thought it was weird that I hung on to like pictures of us. And I'm like, no, because first of all, it's family times because I was the picture taker. Those are the pictures that are honoring Ben. Those are the pictures for Ben to see.
Right.
And also I didn't hate his dad, right? We just, sadly, we fell out of love and we didn't get the right help. I mean, that's why I do what I do. So surround yourself with people that are funny, that are going to say, hey, get out of bed. I'm coming over because if you're not out of your pajamas, I'm going to make you get dressed. I'm not leaving. And you want to give that person permission to pull you out of your funk, because it's not a good, sitting in a funk is not really a positive thing. That's not processing things well. Number 7 is allow someone else.
This is a good place to learn that first example of that funk is going to be there.
Yep.
You can have a day. You know, go
Right.
take a couple hours and enjoy yourself a little bit. Have fun with a friend. You can go back to grieving if you want to. That doesn't mean you're detaching from the relationship or the loss or anything. It's just like it's going to be there. Go have a day if you want to have a day. It's okay.
Right.
That's a
Exactly.
really great first step.
Right. Number 7, which I touched upon a tiny bit before, allow someone else to do the baking and the major cooking and decorating this year. So if it is really hard for you, yeah, if you always did Thanksgiving and this is really hard, I know it's kind of late because we're talking about it 2 days before. If someone else is saying, look, I can do it at my house, don't be a ding dong and take on the pressure when part of you just isn't really up for it. Don't be doing it for the sake of doing it. Right? Let it go. You can do Thanksgiving next year. Same with like Christmas and Hanukkah and things like that. If you do go to an event, take your own car so that you can leave when you choose. We've talked about that in the past.
Yep. It's
really important to not let somebody pick you up because right now you're uncertain about even going to these events. It's just, and sometimes the little triggers, which are not that little, but your sister's still married and your brother's still married.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember those feelings. And then there I was just divorced. Right. And there I am, as there's my brother and his wife and their 3 beautiful kids. And then it's just me and Ben.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And it's important for us to manage our way through that because our friends and family don't really know how to do it. They think the fact that you just showed up is enough, but it's not.
Right.
But they don't understand what it feels like to be like the unicorn at the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah, you don't want to be trapped at an outing. You don't want to be trapped into forcing somebody to take you home, dependent on the ride and things like that. So yeah, go by yourself.
Right. Go by yourself. It's one of the best tips I think I've ever come up with.
Yeah.
The next one is number 9, shop using catalogs or the internet, or don't shop at all this year. So if it's really that overwhelming, maybe this is the year that you just go to a nice local chocolate shop. That's always my best idea because who doesn't like chocolate? Most people like chocolate.
That's right.
And just buy beautiful boxes of chocolates and people will understand and they'll just be appreciative that you even remembered them this year.
Yep.
Right. I mean, one of my favorite Christmas gifts a couple of years ago was one of the divorce attorneys that I work with. And, she and I have worked together with several clients that I've brought to her who hired her. And it was so cool. She sent me this great box of chocolates, and it was by my favorite local chocolatier, which is Harbor Sweets.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know them, but they're out of Salem.
No.
Yeah. Really great chocolates. They've been around since like the 80s.
Mm.
And they used to only, I think they only have like 2 retail places. You can buy them at their little tiny place in Salem, which is kind of nice because it's over by Shetland Park. So it's sort of away from downtown Salem.
Mm-hmm.
And you get samples when you go there. And then they have a store at the North Shore Mall. And they sell all over the U.S. at small shops. So nice gift shops. But Harbor Sweets, local, they're right in Salem, Mass. They've got this, my favorite one is, they're called Sloops. And they're like this big. And they're shaped like a triangle, like a Sloops sail.
Right. Yep.
And they're toffee on the inside. And then they're covered with dark chocolate, and then on the front, like white chocolate, or maybe the whole thing is like white chocolate. But oh my God, they're like their signature dish. And then
nice.
they have dark chocolate, they have milk chocolate, they have white chocolate, and they have beautiful advent calendars. So they have these great big. They usually have 2 designs. They sell out quickly, and that is like a great gift. They're like $32 for the advent calendar, and for the 25 days, you open up the cute little door, and there's chocolate in there, and they're all different.
Yep.
It's a really great gift. Hint, hint, Lou. Yeah, that's a great way to make friends,
yep.
With your girlfriend and things. If they like chocolate, it's really fun. And the 2 designs this year are really nice.
Nice.
But again, this is not the time when you're going through a breakup or you're just out of a breakup. It's not the time to be saying to yourself, oh, I've got to go to all these stores at the mall and I've got to get, my cousin Billy, I've got to get him a toy, and then I have to get him an outfit, and then I have to get him this. Oh, and my mom, I've got to get her this, get her that. Sometimes the easiest thing is, let's be honest. I mean, one decent gift certificate where I can go buy the sweater and the pants myself,
Yep.
that's great. And most of these gift certificates, what I love about gift certificates is that these are offered at these little kiosks in CVS and Walgreens.
Yep.
So, like over the last several years for like my teenage nieces and nephews, they love getting like, what is it? Like an iTunes gift certificate.
Yep.
Or like one of my nieces loves to shop at the store that's kind of a pseudo competitor of Sephora, Ulta.
Yeah.
Ulta, however you say it.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I'm aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking to myself, well, this is great. Like, I don't have to go pick a perfume that she's not going to like.
Right.
I don't have to go in and try to figure out what would a teenager look good in, because obviously I'm probably going to pick something that I think they should, and they're going to go for like,
right.
Blue lipstick or something. It's like, I'm going to be off, like, but there's nothing wrong with that. And the fact that you're just remembering people, that's all I say to do. The other thing is, if you're really in a deep funk and maybe, you just went through this, you just were thrown onto the curb unexpectedly 2 weeks ago. I mean, come on. It's okay to tell people, I'm not celebrating Christmas this year. I just can't. I'm too overwhelmed. And like, I'm just not in a good place to be doing shopping and things like that. And honestly, that's kind of at the point where you find out who your real friends are. And we all know you can't pick your family, but you can pick your friends.
Right.
So if your family is the type that won't go along with that, do the gift certificates. If you cannot get out of shopping, do the gift certificates. Or, like I said, my favorite thing is to support a local store. And these local chocolatiers are out there. In fact, a chocolate store just opened up down the street from me in North Andover on 114. And strangely enough, it's in a half dead little plaza that I don't even think most people even see it.
Yeah.
But when I went to check it out the other day, a friend had mentioned it. There were like 3 people in line. I ended up leaving because they were buying so much that I was like, God, I'm going to be waiting 20 minutes to like check out the chocolates,
Right. Yeah.
So that's my big thing. And Harbor Sweets is a fantastic company. The woman that founded them is, a solopreneur. She's just got a handful of people that work for her. The cool thing about the place in Salem is it's an open concept. So they're down a level from you're like, when you walk into the store, you're like you're in this really, cute little area. There's displays that you can shop from on the left and on the right. And then there's a railing all along, and you're looking right down into like where they're making the chocolate.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Yeah.
It's like being I felt like Charlie.
Like a brewery.
Yeah. I felt like Judith Wonka.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really cool. So you're watching it and then you get samples, which is always my personal favorite. And I also like shopping local. I like, I don't like to buy from the big manufacturers like Godiva and things that are just factory made. I like handmade things. And they're the same price as Godiva, if not less.
Right.
It's phenomenal. They also make one that has ginger in it, which is my favorite.
Ooh, yeah.
With ginger in it.
Yeah.
And even when you go to the North Shore Mall, they offer you samples, which is really good. Yeah. And the last one is, which is something that we talk about in the divorce care program, to get yourself out of your own head, go shop for others. Go do something.
Yep.
Call a food pantry or call, a local organization and say, hey, hold on a minute. I'm like getting all these text messages. Is there something I can do? Is there something I can do to help people? Is there someone I can help? Like right now we have a turkey that I don't really need, and I couldn't find anybody that could use the turkey. I'm probably just going to cook it tomorrow.
Yeah. Make
it the day before or something. But make sure the trash is out. Trash is here, and I just never know if my husband dragged the trash barrel out or not. We have a lot of trash this week. But those are like the top 10 things that apply to either a widow or a widower, as well as grief that you have from a breakup or a divorce that you didn't want.
Right.
And a lot of us have regrets, and that's a really hard thing to deal with, but it takes time, right?
Right.
Let me see what else I have in here. All right, here we go. So this is the booklet that we'll be using on December 8th. It's not a booklet that you can buy outside of coming to the program. So this is $5, whoop-de-doo. If someone can't afford it, that's fine. But you can contact me to sign up for this. You have to be pre-registered because I send people a Zoom link, right? And I also vet people. So anyone that signs up, I want to talk to them first. So please reach out to me if you know anybody. Like you said earlier, Lou, the best gift that you can give to someone is letting them know about my services or sending them to my divorce care program or send them to this, which is December 8th.
It's a great way to show you care, because oftentimes when you get entangled in somebody else's relationship and try to help, you're being altruistic and you have the best intent, but oftentimes you may want to criticize their partner and it may not be the right day for that. Or
right.
You can just walk into it in so many ways. So showing that you care by referring them to you or to one of these programs, it can be a great neutral way to just open up and say, hey, look, I'm here for you.
Right. Right. Well, the thing is, what's great about this is to me, and it sounds kind of flippant, but I think one of the best things you can say to your friend or coworker who's complaining all the time about, how sad they are and how they can't focus and all this is to say, hey, Betsy, you need help, but it ain't me. you need a free consultation with Coach Judith. She specializes in breakups and, whether with a marriage or not. She also does the repair work, but, and just say she's running a Surviving the Holidays group. In January, I'm starting, like mid to late January, I'll be starting my 13-week program again, which is, just the divorce care.
Yep.
So here's one of the things.
And real help involves being vulnerable, right?
Right.
And opening yourself up to people. And oftentimes you don't want to do that with a friend because the images of that, the experiences of that are going to linger on beyond your time of grief. And you're going to be 4 or 5 years down the road, and you're going to be in another relationship. You're going to be happy, and people are going to still have that time when you were struggling. A lot of people struggle with showing that when they're really struggling, they're really down in the dumps. So you find someone who's not going to judge, someone who's just going to help. And, it can be easier with a coach type of situation than it can be with a friend.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, one of the things, I'm not going to talk about narcissism today because we're on a roll with the holidays. And I think an important show to be doing today, and we'll do it again in December.
Yep.
One of the things that trips people up when they're still healing from a breakup or even a separation where you're thinking you might get back together, but you're not really sure, is a lot of times we have feelings of guilt and regret that bubble up. And especially around the holidays, when you're starting to feel more vulnerable and lonely, you may be feeling like, oh, if I only hadn't had that argument, if I only didn't say, can we talk about what you said last night? Because the reality is you should have been able to talk about what happened the night before, right? Yep. But how when we have those, I'm sure you've been there, when you have that attempt that goes sideways and the person just like ends up, practically knocking the table over on their way out because they're so mad that like you pointed something out or you want to talk about an issue, we're left with a lot of regrets. And we can even feel a lot of guilt, even though maybe we weren't the one that caused something, but the guilt can be, I didn't try hard enough, right?
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't have had those arguments, or I shouldn't have said that in the argument, or I shouldn't have called an attorney and scared him with the D word, divorce or whatever.
Yeah.
So here are some tips on what to do with guilt and regrets, right? Which we all have about something, even if it's not about a past relationship. So here are the things that people tend to say, if only I'd been more attentive, if only I'd been nicer, if only I'd taken better care of myself, then I wouldn't be alone this holiday. Because of the divorce, my kids have very few gifts under the tree. Why did I make those wrong choices? Now it's changed everything. So in here, they talk about You are not alone if regrets, guilt, and even shame are plaguing you this holiday season. Guilt is a common feeling after the loss of a marriage, but you can be offered the help and you can find peace and freedom from your guilt, and especially when you come into a support group, because the guilt is like a vice, right? It's like this grip on your chest.
Right.
And guilt will keep you tamped down like there's no tomorrow. You can't operate well when you've got any kind of guilt, right? Also, sometimes people feel guilty when they shouldn't.
Right.
Your feelings of guilt might have nothing to do with wrongdoing on your part. They are more likely regrets. So when we're in the divorce care program and when we're doing the Surviving the Holidays night on December 8th, we talk about that. We talk about, is it really a regret or is it a guilt? Let's sort of ascertain what the difference is. If the guilt you feel is appropriate or your wrong choices caused the breakup, don't despair. Christmas reminds us that we are loved, that there is hope, that's the whole point, right? Thanksgiving reminds us that it's about being grateful. So even though you've lost this relationship and maybe you've lost some friends and whatnot, the whole point of Thanksgiving is to look for blessings, to look for things to be grateful for. A lot of times people don't know until I go through this process with them of every day, at the end of the day, my clients in their journal, the final thing that they do before they turn off the light is, and they have other exercises to do that are meditative to put them to sleep when the light's off. But the last thing they do before they turn off the light is they take their notebook, which is their journal, and they write one gratitude.
Yeah.
And then when they turn the lights off, they need to think about that gratitude. So the gratitude can be as simple as, I'm thankful I got out of bed and got to work today. That's a gratitude, and it counts.
Yep.
I'm thankful that I was able to make breakfast today for me and my kids. Because maybe you've been so down and out, all you do every day is take out all the Cocoa Puffs and Cheerios and say, have at it.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But a great milestone and a great accomplishment is getting a meal together that you hadn't been doing in the past. So whether you took the time to have pancakes or you bought frozen waffles this time, that's a specialty, whatever, those count. And those are blessings. Mm-hmm. The fact that, maybe your 8-year-old still likes to be hugged before bedtime.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that my 8-year-old had a good day at school today. You can be grateful for those things. It doesn't have to be, you don't have a relationship, so you have nothing to be grateful about, right? You're in the middle of a toxic relationship. You have nothing to be grateful for. That's not true.
Well, the exercise is changing your focus to find the things that you should be grateful for.
Right. And it's important to focus on those things. And if you're starting to feel overwhelmed about the upcoming Thanksgiving and whatnot, think about some of the tips that we've been giving here today, which is like, drive yourself to Uncle Billy's, right? Say no to picking somebody up because you may not be staying for the whole day, and tell the person that, right? Or like for me, I always have to drive my mom places and nobody else lives up here. So I might say, well, I'll bring mom, but today, which is Tuesday, I would be calling my brother and saying, but somebody else needs to bring her home because there's a really good chance I'm not going to make it past dinner.
Right.
And I don't want mom to feel like she has to leave when I leave. This is going to be a really hard thing for me to even show up with all of you guys because it's the first time I'm going to Thanksgiving without Bill or whoever it is. Right.
Right.
It's important to tell people that. You and I have talked about this. Plan ahead, call the host or hostess. If it's your sister or brother, call the nicer one, whoever it is. Like for me, not that my brother wouldn't understand, but I have a really good relationship with my sister-in-law.
Sure.
I could call her in a heartbeat and say, I'm not going to make it through this. I'm forcing myself to go out. I'm trying not to isolate. I know that that's a bad thing. But other than like the cheese and cracker time, I don't know if I can even stay for dinner. And I don't want you to be mad at me. I don't people to talk. I really don't want people talking badly about me if and when I leave early. Yep. So I'm asking you to be my wingman and like have my back if that happens. And, can I count on you for that?
Right.
And then, of course, she would say, of course. Maybe it's your cousin that's going to be there. Maybe it's not even the people that are hosting it. So call your cousin Jane and say, Jane, I need you to like be my wingman today. This is going to be really hard for me. I'm not really even wanting to go, but I'm forcing myself to go for a little while.
Right.
And I just need you. I need you to have my back when I get up and say, hey, everybody, I got to go, because I'm not going to linger with goodbyes. I'm just going to leave.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't owe everybody an explanation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so that is such a key tip, because I don't think too many people think of that, Lou. They all feel like, if I go, that's going to be like this drawn out day. Then there's going to be the Macy's parade. Then there's going to be more dinner. And then there's going to be a Christmas movie, whatever they do on Thanksgiving, or football. And it's like, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah. So listen, if you can get stoked up for an hour or so at somebody's place, but if you're sitting there getting ready or thinking about it a couple of days before, God, I got to be there 6 hours. I got to be there 8 hours. That's overwhelming, justifiably overwhelming. Give yourself the chance to go for an hour. If you're feeling good and it's working out, you stay for 2, maybe 3, but take it easy on yourself. Give yourself a chance. Give yourself something that's not overwhelming to do.
Right. Exactly. And these are the things that we're going to talk about again in December, when Christmas is coming up, for people to really think about these. What we're really talking about is looking at these holidays, which are always, like, let's be honest, they're friends or family events. And we want to be able to help people and give them tips for surviving these social events.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's something like, sometimes it can be, Lou, after you break up after a relationship or a marriage, there could have been like these 4 other couples that you guys always got together with for for even like New Year's Eve.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's a holiday we haven't even talked about, that everybody's like, oh, that's looming on the horizon. If you go, is your ex going to be there? Chances are that's not going to be comfortable. Chances are only one of you should go, if at all.
Right.
And that's something that you need to think about and just say, look, I don't want to be, ambushed. If he's not going, I'll go. But if he's going to go, I'm going to have to pass.
Right.
But some of the things that we're talking about are, family get-togethers, office parties, yearly social events. So it could be like you're part of a ski group and they always do this like Christmas gathering, or people belong to book groups and things like that. So even if it's an event, it's something that you belong to, but you didn't do it with your spouse. So like maybe I belonged to a women's book group, and they're having like a Christmas, at somebody's house. They're going to have like 8 of us over, and it's going to be potluck. But now I have to sit with these women who I know love me and they care about me. But of course, at some point, like, topic about my ex and stuff will probably come up.
Sure.
And so that can be, plus it's like a Christmas celebration. So, again, if I choose to go to that, then I have to talk to the hostess or whatever and just say, hey, I just got to tell you on the side, I'm uncomfortable about that. Right. But even office gatherings, I belong to a business group. There's lots of social events coming up. Like there's one next Wednesday night. There's going to be some throughout December. And if I were just right now going through the pain of a divorce and stuff, it's not because my spouse belongs to the same business organization, but it is the fact that they're going to be holly jolly events. You're not supposed to be a bunch of Debbie Downers, a bunch of Eeyores. It's not called like the Eeyores holiday gathering.
Yep.
You have to think. And the other thing too is we've talked about not taking on too much. Maybe you don't go to the business holiday event, because the only thing that you really can get through is your sister's Christmas morning. So you're going to go to Christmas morning, but you're not going to go to the business event. And that's okay.
Yep.
One of the things is we want to help people with these tips so that they're not in this fight or flight mode during the thing, feeling like, oh my God, I knew I shouldn't have come. Oh my God, what was I thinking? Oh my God, it's as bad as I thought.
Well, we're back to learning how to take care of yourself. And a lot of people think that's selfish, and a lot of people have a hard time with it. but there are certainly times, and by the way, it's all the time, but you need to take
Right.
care of yourself. And
Right.
in these times of grief, in these times post-relationship, it's even more important to take care of yourself.
Right. And, there's nothing worse, Lou, than, being a little bit hesitant, but you go anyway, but not knowing this tip of tell someone you may not stay for the whole thing. And so now you're stuck at the party, right?
Yeah.
And you're trying to think of an escape plan that looks cool. Like, oh my God, I'm going to pretend that my babysitter just called, or I'm going to pretend that oh my God, I am not feeling well, you guys.
Yeah.
Or, I've been at social situations where I just feel so awkward. I find myself every 45 minutes going to the ladies' room.
Yeah.
Just disappearing to the bathroom for 10 or 15 minutes, because at least I'm out of the fray and I'm not sitting there trying to have the chat.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so the tips that we'll be giving, again, a little bit further out when we're talking about Christmas and holiday parties that will be coming up in December. And also stupid New Year's Eve, we're going to be giving practical ideas on whether to attend this holiday event or not, how to communicate your decision with the host, how to handle awkward moments, because we want to be prepared ahead of time. What are we going to say when someone says, "Ooh, God, I heard about Bob, man, what's with that?" Right? And you may not want to get into it because you're just trying to get through the first hour of a party.
Yeah.
You have to have a plan ahead for what is your response going to be. Right?
Yep.
What to say to people who make hurtful comments. So hurtful comments will, people might say things like, yeah, no offense, we never liked Bill.
Right.
Right. Or, hey, you know what? Not for nothing, but I did tell you 2 years ago, the guy was cheating. I saw him at the restaurant with that blonde or whatever. Right. I was pretty sure you know what? I knew the guy was cheating. I told you that, but those kinds of things are hurtful because it's yeah, okay. I didn't want to believe it at the time. That was then, and shame on me. I've already got enough guilt about that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of hurtful. And when somebody says they never liked the guy anyway, yeeks.
Yeah.
You feel like saying, yeah, but I did. And wow, now I just found out you didn't like my boyfriend for the last 4 years. Oh my God. Right?
Yeah.
That's not nice. That doesn't make me feel too good, Lou.
Right.
The other thing is what to do in the face of tears and emotional overload. So there can be times where we just get overwhelmed and we just have this breakdown, late at night in our bedroom when the kids are in bed. Or, there's lots and lots of triggers. And that's one of the things that we'll be talking about, Lou. There's a lot of triggers. I had a trigger the other day. I went to Market Basket and it was last week and I was shopping. And before I even got out of the car, and I parked far away so I can get a decent walk in. I'm one of those weirdos that plus originally I used to say it was because I didn't want my car door to get dinged.
Right.
But I like parking far away unless it's 2 degrees. And so I was parked far away. And before I even turned the car off, and I had on radio, I could hear that ding, 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 right?
Yeah.
The Salvation Army. And I was just so triggered because I'm it reminds me of holidays and times when I didn't have that much extra money. And I felt like such a doofus. How could I not have $1 to put in that bucket? I mean, This is a legit group, unless you get the one-off who skims off of it. But even that, you sort of go, well, if they're that desperate that they have to skim off of it. I mean, millionaires are not standing out there ringing the bells.
Right.
These are people like you and I who are out there just wanting to volunteer for the Salvation Army. Right.
Yep.
We're not doing it because we're going to take $20 out of the bucket. And the ding, 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 it just reminded me of how I used to feel in the midst of the holiday season. It reminded me, when you hear that ding, 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 you're holy crap, the holidays are here.
A lot of triggers. There are a lot of triggers around the holidays. It's very easy to get bitten by one.
Right. And the other thing I noticed was, this is going to sound weird, but honestly, there's a lot of triggers around the grocery store, Lou. So there's already Christmas wreaths and stuff out. I mean, I'm not making this up. It's crazy, right? Yep. I'm Geez, I barely have a turkey in the oven for Thanksgiving. The holiday season is filled with like, $8 to $50 wreaths. The holiday season, all of a sudden, they've got like Christmas cookies and stuff I'm not making this up.
Sure.
There's like right when you walk in and you pass the registers, they've already got these like special setups of Christmas cookies.
Right.
And stuffed reindeers and stuff, right? Oh, and don't get me started on the candy canes. The candy canes are already out. They've got the boxes of candy canes.
Yep.
Now I enjoy that. I like to buy the candy canes and I crumple them up into brownies because that's like a whole thing. I like peppermint with chocolate.
Yep.
But if you are going through the throes of a messy divorce or a breakup, or your wife just died 2 weeks ago and you're in the grocery store, you're already sort of regretting the fact that you
Right.
even went to the grocery store, because this is all about holiday cheer. I mean, peppermint,
Yep.
Peppermint patties and, chocolate Christmas Santas and the chocolate. Oh, I forgot to buy those. I gotta buy those chocolate turkeys.
And I say embrace that as a little bit of immunization, because these small
Yep.
things, which are really not threatening, going to a grocery store, but you have the trigger, face the trigger, go through the trigger.
Right.
It just helps you with your ability to work through the more severe triggers you're going to find later on when you're with family, or you're within mutual friends, or whatever goes on.
Right.
These are small, non-threatening triggers, but take them, work through them, process them. It gives you the ability to do it with bigger things.
Right. Exactly.
Don't you tell people about the event again so that they can.
Right. Yeah. So again, the key is what we're going to be doing with everybody, and what people, what my clients do with me, if you hire me, is working on, the preemptive strike. What am I going to say when Billy says that to me? What am I going to do when I get to the grocery store and everybody's like, or, you go to like the Burlington Mall or the Linfield Marketplace and people are Christmas caroling.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared for that. You've got to have a plan for, power through it, relax. What am I going to focus on? And also, just having that support system. So yeah, it's after 12. I didn't even know that. So the event that I'm talking about today is for men and women. Whoop, there we go.
Yep.
This is for men and women who are separated from a breakup of a long-term relationship or a marriage. Go with it.
You get it.
Get it? Or they are going through the process of the legal divorce and all that messy stuff and custody. And will I have the kids for Thanksgiving and Christmas? Or people are post-breakup, whether they went through a divorce or they just broke up with someone 2 months ago or 20 years ago. This helps people get through the holidays because they're single, they're still sad, they've got triggers of guilt and shame, maybe they've got regrets. Or sometimes people feel like, my God, I've been divorced for 5 years. Why can't I meet somebody? Right? And so now here I am, single Sally again, sad Susan. I've got to go sit at the Thanksgiving table again, single. Yep. So go to my website, judithjamison.org, send me an email off of any website page, or you can email me right there. Awesome. jjamisongroup@gmail.com. And I can tell you about December 8th. You have to pre-register, so let your friends know about it. And we'll, get a really great group together. It's going to be by Zoom. So if you have a friend that went through a breakup and is really down and out, and they live in Chicago or they live in Boise, Idaho, I don't care. They can come, because thanks to Zoom, they can attend. And also, if they want my services at all, my coaching services are almost all by Zoom now. Excellent. Zoom and phone calls.
Yep.
So the majority of my clients don't live in Boston or the Boston area.
Well, that'll make it easier.
Yep. So we probably should wrap up, because this is a blast, but we just wanted to get these tips out, and we talk about this every year, and it's a really important series. No offense to the narcissism series that we're doing. This is very important.
Yes.
And we want to help you guys. We want to get you the help. This is what I do for a living. So get a hold of me, jjamisongroup@gmail.com. You can also, post a comment here. But please, please let people know about this. And, we really should share this. Today's episode, we should really be sharing this all over Facebook because people need to hear these tips and tricks on how to get through and how to deal with their feelings that are okay, but you have to manage them. So, hey, here's to navigating our hearts through the holidays. And I'd love to come alongside you and help you with that. But hey, Lou, I guess we're going to just wrap it up and see each other next week again.
All right. We'll see you next week.
All right, everybody. Be well, be healthy, and happy Thanksgiving. Take care.